Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and just take a look at this little beauty of a light. This is the Wuben Knight X-0, and this thing is a tank. In fact, it weighs a ton. I'll show you, even though it's a tiny little light. Look at that intricacy of that graphic design. In fact, it has these little cutouts. There are 6 of them designed for tritium inserts, should you want to go that way. And you can actually see that they've done this kind of circuitry motif inside the pockets for the tritium. Now this, I would have to say, is an EDC light. Not only is it a high performer, super solid, as I mentioned, built like a tank and weighs like a tank, but it also is one of those things that is just fun to use. That's half the battle with EDC. You want gear that performs, and you like carrying it, and you enjoy using it. And of course, it's got the high end that performs. This is a machined aluminum, rock solid design. Couple of features here. It is USB-C rechargeable. This is actually this little part right here is what turns it on and off. You can see that there. So it uses a little thumb plate, which also allows you to slam it into something to turn it on if you need to and turn it off. Has a battery indicator here. Under here, we've got a couple of neodymium magnets that you can see are actually spring-loaded. So the engineering on this, I mean, is just over the top. It's pure enjoyment. But it also, I think it's an IPX68, waterproof, dust-proof, drop-proof, you know, from reasonable elevations and aquatic depths. But overall, the more I play around with this, the more I find it just screams enjoy life, enjoy using tools, which is what this is all about. On the bottom, it's got a magnetic plate, which grab my Grand Force Brooks splitting maul here. And you can see, I mean, it's on there nice and snug, which means that if you want to use this right angle light as an area light for work, perfect. Now, I've got a handful of different lights. These are all 90-degree lights here, so it fits in. And then these are kind of the same small form factor lights on down, you know, to this tiny little flow mauve. But this is actually heavier than this Surefire backup. So if you look at this thing and look at this thing weighs more. Now, why is that important? It's not. It's fun. But when I got this Olight Baton 3, I think this is stainless steel. I mean, these are really beefy lights. But in this list, you have to go up above the Energizer. This is actually the first light up here, this Through Night, that weighs more than this little Wuben. Wuben has been around for quite a while. They were an OEM maker, and then they branched out in their own flashlights. And now I like to bring unique flashlight solutions to you on this channel rather than, you know, just more of the traditional. Now Wuben, when they contacted me, they sent me this. Actually, they let me choose, which was really nice. They sent me this, and I had looked at their product line. They make a flashlight that's just slightly under $1,000. They have super high-end lighting. You know, and I have to apologize to Wuben for not, you know, not having them on my radar earlier. You can see here we've got a 1100 milliamp battery, 3.7 volts. It is inside this case here. Now this is a little tougher to remove. I've loosened it up. You can use some kind of a spanner here. Maybe I'll keep using that to crack this thing open to show you the battery that's in here. Could do this a little differently if I wasn't on camera. One of the reasons I like cracking these open is to inspect the threads. This battery is held in by that same magnet, but you can see here 1100 milliamp Wuben battery, same size as a CR123. But if you look at the threads, I mean, just the machining of the threads, the angles of the threads really makes a difference. And I kind of learned about that when I was playing around with some of the early 4.7s. This is a titanium 4.7s. They use a I've noticed it's well greased. You can see the grease in that and the greased O-ring. But just beautiful threads. That's a big difference. Others, you know, Energizer, this is an inexpensive one. And then if you look at the machining of the threads, it's pretty basic. Nice thin thread lines. Does work, but obviously they did it as quick as possible, you know, to produce a very simple light. But going back to the Wuben, one of the things that really caught my eye is just how many, not only designs they had, but how they worked with overbuilt lights. Just, it looked like they were really, I can tighten that down later, it still works just fine. Just worked with multiple LED manufacturers, multiple battery choices, run times. In fact, the run time on this seemed longer than the actual listed time. You know, I was out on a hike for over 2 hours, and this thing was still producing a high volume of light, which was beyond what the specification said. Now, there are two menu levels with this. One is whether or not you're activating things while this light is already on, and one if you're activating it with it off. Now, if I hold this down, it'll kick on to this super thin or super small 1 lumen moonlight. And I love that because a lot of times that's all I want. I'm just trying to find my way around. Once I've got it in an on position, I can cycle through by just holding down on this lever. It has a memory, so it goes right back to where you began. And as I mentioned, if I start from scratch, strobe light warning, if I double click this, it kicks on a strobe light, but once it's on in the strobe, if I double click again, it goes to the SOS, which is always good. I'm a big fan of SOS more than strobe. And if I've got a need, I can go to 4, click it off. You see that blinking there? I have just locked it out because you might realize, yeah, you could turn it on in your pack, you know, by pressure or something. So I have to have 4 individual clicks to kick it back on. Kick that on, there we go. And now I'm ready. So I look at this more like I do Glock. It's designed to work, not designed to prevent itself from working. So it does have that direction, that philosophy, which is totally fine. I mean, that's what I love about it. Whereas some lights are designed not to work unless you really want them to. This one's designed to work, and it does quite easily. And I like that I can activate it you know, by something other than trying to dig my finger into a recessed area. This can be good, but this Surefire oddly doesn't really tail stand, and that cover prevents you from activating it accidentally. So I'd rather have it go off accidentally than not easily go off when I need it. Real heavy duty clip here. I love the circuitry. I chose that. Now the weight. This weighs about the same. I've got a snap-on 17 millimeter deep socket. That's about what the weight is, so you can run to your toolbox and say, wow, that's a heavy light. Yeah, it's really heavy. It's heavier than this heavy O-light. In fact, this thing, when I put it on the scale, it tops out. Check this out. I've got, whoops, that's got the magnet on it. I have to be careful, it pulled itself down. So right there, I've got 104 grams. If I put this on there, and that's with battery, you can see, with battery, I've got 96 grams. So you can see it's pretty beefy, and I enjoy that in an EDC light. I'm happy with this guy. I'm going to check out more Wuben lights. I like that they're over the top. They are pure enjoyment. You can see just the detail of work here. to me, this is like a lot of those products that just say, I like you. I'm happy that you're using our tools, and we're going to try to make that tool as much fun to use as possible. Anyway, let me know what you think. And with that, Doc out.